It is the first football in November here on Football Friday, presented by Wolf Spreads. It's the month of decision in the league, and a week with some terrific matchups, some different quarterback matchups, a new interim head coach in Las Vegas, and a lot of road favorites this week. So, Nick, Zan, Ben, how you guys doing?
We're great.
Good. Doing good. Looking forward to hopefully a good week of football and picks.
Absolutely.
But as Johnny said, it is presented by Wolf Spreads. Are you looking to get involved in the action while rooting for your favorite team? Have you ever had a friendly debate on who can pick more games correctly? Which it seems like Zan was the winner in week one of our Wolf Spreads. So see if you can keep a streak of 2-0. Does all this talk about parlays, lines, over-unders make your head spin and you want to learn more about the sports betting hoopla? Gamble with us and check out Wolf Spreads. We're running a sports betting competition completely free on the Wolf Spreads app. Here's how it works. Everybody gets 2,000 fantasy dollars. That's fake money to bet on NFL games with whoever can profit the most with their 2,000 bankroll wins. And if you're not an NFL fan, don't worry. Wolf Spreads has competition available for the NBA, MLB, NHL, and college football and college basketball. And just a little secret, I heard the MMA is next. So put the fantasy dollars on the over-under, the money line, or the spreads. Competing for bragging rights with your fellow players while having an additional fun watching sports and not risk losing your house in the process. Wolf Spreads, sports betting for friends who love the action. All right, let's go.
Absolutely. And on the buys this week, we've got the Jaguars, the 49ers, the Lions, and yes, the Broncos. Oh, did somebody say Broncos?
I think someone said Broncos.
Oh, man. Hey, I called the bluff. I said we weren't going to have any Broncos this week. Well, there's their 15 minutes of fame. Hey, 2 wins in a row, though, for Denver coming into their bye week. And they, against the Chiefs last week, that was one of the major upsets. And so we'll give them the week off, and they'll be back in action next week. But, guys, let's start overseas here in game number 1. And let's go to Nick first. Nick, in Frankfurt, it's a Rich Eisen, Jason McCourty, Dan Orlovsky, Sarah Walsh, and Stacey Dale special on the NFL Network. A battle of 6-2 teams here as the Miami Dolphins take on the Kansas City Chiefs, and the Chiefs a 2-point favorite.
So as we just said, the Chiefs just came off a horrible loss to the Broncos. Now everyone's going to make excuses and say, oh, well, it was Snowgate down in or up in Denver in the Rocky Mountains. And Patrick Mahomes had the flu. I get it. But they just played a terrible game. And they almost lost to them the first time when they played, which was not great. So, and I like the way the Dolphins are playing now. Tua looks like he's on par throwing the football. I think Hank was the one who said this, that he pretty much called that Tua was going to come out and throw the football better this year, and it shows. So, right off the bat, upset city, Dolphins +2.
Upset special in Frankfurt. I like that. So, guys, I think we're looking possibly the best international game of all time. The first time in the 49 international games that both teams enter 4 games over 500. And we've got a 4-way tie atop the AFC, and we've got 2 of those 4 here. But I look at this game, Nick, and I think this is a game of trends. Patrick Mahomes, who, by the way, is not sick anymore, who rarely loses consecutive games against a Dolphins team that's lost its 2 previous matchups against top contenders away from Hard Rock Stadium, both who had solid defenses. And maybe the Dolphins knew that because they flew to Frankfurt Monday night and landed early Tuesday, while the Chiefs only left for Germany Thursday afternoon. But the Chiefs have been doing it this year with their defense, and I think their defense is going to slow down Tua and their former buddy Tyreek Hill just enough to eke out a win. So I'm going to take the money in Germany in game 1 for the Chiefs -2.
Oh, I wasn't prepared.
Yeah, I'm excited for this game. You have pretty much a early morning game where a lot of games early morning haven't been great. So this should be a game for a lot of NFL fans to get up for, because you have 2 quarterbacks, Mahomes and Tua, that have been great this year. And you just have, really good offensive weapons on each play. You have Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle on one side, and for the Chiefs, you got Travis Kelce on their side. And obviously Tyreek Hill probably wants a little bit of that, revenge type of feel playing against his former team. But give me the Chiefs to cover this game overall. I think it's going to be close. I think it's going to be up in like the high 20s. But yeah, I'm going to go the Chiefs to cover -2.
What about you, Zan?
Yeah, I mean, this should be an instant classic. It's a heavyweight fight of sorts. It could end up being an AFC Championship game preview, to be quite honest with you. I just think right now, the Chiefs, they know they had a letdown game a week ago, and they know they need to bounce back. And I think even though Tyreek Hill has had this game circled on his calendar, I think the Chiefs are gonna beat Miami in heartbreaking fashion. I love this to be a close one. I think Mahomes outduels Tua, wins the game 27-26. So give me Kansas City to win, but Miami covers the +2 overseas in Germany.
Wow.
So an instant classic there. I like that idea. And I think if this is a lower scoring game, like I think Ben alluded to, I think that's advantage Chiefs. And wouldn't it be the case in years past? But this year they've been playing a lot of lower scoring games and more often than not come out on top. But this should be a thrilling game to watch, and we know how much from last year how much the fans in Germany love this game, and that's why these overseas these international games continue to happen. By the way, I do have everybody else's picks, but what we're going to do is I'm going to share them on our social media pages. So check us out at Game On ETB on Twitter, also ETB Network on Twitter. We'll have those, and we'll also put them on our Facebook account and Instagram account too, just so we don't confuse everybody there. So all those picks will be on our social media handles. Okay. Guys, back. What's that, Zan?
Before you continue going into this week, what are the updated standings for everyone before we continue on to the Sunday slate?
Sure, I'll make it really quick here. So Nick D is still in the lead. He's got 157 points. I've got 151 because I had a 25-point week last week. Zan, you have 147. Tom has 146. Ben has 145. Hank and Paul have 142, and Nick has 135. So, 1 week. Hey, Nick, you can have a 25-point week this week and get yourselves right back in it. There were some bad beats for you last week. I mean, the Chiefs, the lock didn't hit. The Ravens didn't cover. So there were some bad ones in there, too. There were a couple of ties in there, which in tie instances, you have to have the team correct in order to score in ties. That's according to our rule book at TB Network. So you had some bad beats, but it's been that kind of year. But let's bounce back this week. So for at least the four of us, Zan's also going to take the Dolphins plus the point. So you and Zan will be there, and Ben and I will both take Kansas City. Back in the States, guys, it's a Chris Myers, Mark Schlereth, and Christina Pink special on Fox. It's fifth-round rookie Jaren Hall out of BYU and the Minnesota Vikings taking on Taylor Heineke and the Atlanta Falcons. And the Falcons, a 4-point favorite. The normal play in this game, guys, would be to take the home team with a veteran quarterback. But the Falcons, I just can't figure out, and there's so much uncertainty because, we don't know what Jaren Hall is going to be like without his number one receiver. Taylor Heineke has shown in spots that he can do well. It's essentially a coin flip, but laying 4 points. I'm struggling with this one.
This is an ugly game by every stretch of the imagination.
It's a game you don't want
I'll tell you,
TV.
It's ugly, but it's an important game for both when it comes to the playoff positionings, especially with the Vikings winning 3 games in a row. You know what? This is too many points to lay, so I'm going to take the Falcons to win, but I'm going to grab the 4 with Minnesota in this spot. I think when you have this much uncertainty, I think you've got to take the points in this one. So Atlanta wins. Minnesota, though, plus the 4 is my play, Ben.
Yeah, 2 quarterbacks specifically. You got Kirk Cousins out for the year, which hopefully he's going to be okay by the end of it. Desmond Ritter's been really, really struggling this year. They obviously benched him for specific reasons. So you have Taylor Heineke on one side, and you have Jaren Hall, I believe, they're going to be their starting quarterback. I think that's Kevin O'Connell said this week.
Yes.
So you just have a battle of uncertainty pretty much on both sides of the ball. So it's really hard to tell. But with that being said, I was going to pick Kirk Cousins. If Kirk Cousins was healthy, I was going to pick the Vikings to win this one, but I'm going to lean towards the Falcons. They're at home. I'm going to at least go with someone that has a little bit of playing experience, which Taylor Heineke does have. Remember, obviously, that he played against Tom Brady a couple years ago when he was a Washington Commander in the wild card game because I believe one of their quarterbacks got hurt or something like that. So, yeah, I know it's a game you don't want to have on your TV specifically, especially after you have Dolphins Chiefs when we preview the one right beforehand. But I'm going to go with the Falcons here. I'm not the Vikings to take the points, though, because I think it's a battle of uncertainty for both spots here, and I think it's going to be a close one. So, yeah, give me the Falcons to win, but I think the Vikings are going to cover.
All right, Zan, what do you have?
I don't know. I just think this is one of those games where I hate the line on this. I think the line should be a lot closer than what it is, considering how much uncertainty is on both sides. But when Taylor Heineke's been put in this spot before, he's performed well, and this Vikings team, just to me, has too many question marks, especially with Justin Jefferson out, and then of course Kirk Cousins out for the remainder of the season, and it's unfortunate for several fantasy owners, including myself. So give me a -4, and I think Taylor Heineke is a good game goes for probably about $1.96 or so. And does just enough to win the game and throws one touchdown. I'm going to say Falcons win 30-24, and what's going to be a surprisingly high scoring affair. I think one of the things in the NFL that I think people are failing to realize is that there are some weeks where the worst game of the week ends up being one of the most entertaining, and there's a great example of that when the Jets played the Eagles a couple weeks ago. So I think that Minnesota and Atlanta will follow the same trend, and I think it'll be very competitive.
Yeah.
So he is taking the money there, Nick.
Oh yeah, that's right. This game is ugly. Like that's the one word that comes to my mind when I look at this game. Now I know the Vikings traded for Josh Dobbs from the Cardinals, which they basically got for a bucket of baseballs and bats. They basically traded nothing. What did they trade? Dobbs and a 6 for a conditional 7th or whatever it was. I mean, it was like some ridiculous deal. Like they traded him for nothing. So I'm surprised. I guess Dobbs needs a week or two for the playbook, I guess, to catch up. Yeah. But it's ugly on the Minnesota side. Kirk Cousins' injury looked like the same injury Aaron Rodgers suffered in week 1 of the year with the Jets. So he gets the surgery. He's probably going to be out for the long haul, like past the season. It's going to probably go into next season. That's how bad the injury is going to be. I think it's going to be a running game. It's basically going to be Alexander Mattison versus Bijan Robinson. Let's just be honest and call a spade a spade. If Bijan Robinson is healthy and the NFL is not investigating Atlanta for their injury list practices from last week. So in that case, I think I like the Falcons a little bit more just because I like their running attack a little bit more than Minnesota. But it's not going to be like a runaway game. I could see it being like a 6-point game, like Zan said. I think it's a touchdown game. I think the Falcons find a way to pull this out, so I'm going to take the money.
Yeah, you see how much we were hesitating on that one. And yes, Josh Dobbs did get traded to Minnesota, and it looks like he's in line to start next week for them. But the short week after the trade there was why. So we'll find out what happens there in Atlanta. Zan, it's a Jim Nantz, Tony Romo, Tracy Wolfson special on CBS. Well, this is one of my favorite games of the week. It is Geno Smith and the Seattle Seahawks taking on the Baltimore Ravens and Lamar Jackson, and the Ravens are a 6-point home favorite.
Yeah, and I alluded to this a couple weeks ago. You know how I feel about teams traveling cross country. It's bad news. I think Seattle having to go through multiple different time zones and play what's a 10 a.m. game over there would be a 1 p.m. Eastern game in Baltimore. I just think Lamar Jackson has a field day, even though I think Seattle's defense has stayed stingy and competitive the last few weeks. I just don't think Geno Smith will be able to have the gas tank to keep up. So give me the Ravens to cover -6. Give me Lamar Jackson and they have a huge day, throw for 3 touchdowns and maybe about 360 yards.
Wow.
I'll say the Ravens win this one by 10. We're going to go 34-24 Baltimore at home.
I mean, I think the score is right. I don't know if he'll throw for 360 yards. I don't remember the last time Lamar has thrown for, or if he's ever thrown for 350 yards. But I agree with you. Seattle traveling across. They've had some unfortunate losses in the past couple of weeks on games they probably should have won, including the game against Cincinnati, which they should have won. And
for
they kind of
arguably the game a week ago they should have lost.
Agreed. So I don't like the time zone travel for Seattle. They're not a very well traveled team across time zones, and Lamar and the offense have finally figured it out. and now they're being more consistent. Is Odell healthy? That's going to be the one issue that I think is going to come into play. But they have enough offense where they'll be able to beat Seattle. So take the money.
Well said.
Yeah,
So,
I like this
go ahead,
game.
Ben.
Okay. In terms of this game specifically, like Zain mentioned, cross country. The team at cross country with Seattle when they went over to the Midwest, that was Cincinnati. They took a really close L. I think it's going to be a very similar type of a game. I think Gino's been actually played okay as of late, but I just really worry about their defense. I feel like their defense has been kind of getting carved up as of late specifically. The Ravens offense has played really, really well as of late. So I think it's going to be a 7-point game. I think it's going to be like a 28-21 type of a game. Give me the Ravens to take the money at this -6.
Two teams featuring high-powered offenses, hardening defenses, but I love the Ravens here. Lamar 17-1 against NFC opponents. Todd Monken's offense has been superb, and Seattle had to hold on against the Browns and then fly cross-country for this early window game. Also, what is one problem, guys, that plagues Pete Carroll's squad this year? Penalties. And they rank second in the NFL in penalties per game, many of them pre-snap variety, which puts Seattle back behind the sticks before they can even get going. And also, they rank in the bottom on third down in both on offense and defense. I not only love the Ravens here, this is my bench lock of the week here. I'm taking Baltimore -6 here against Seattle. I think Lamar, because let's be fair, and this was one I got right last week. I mean, the Ravens did win, but that felt like that little letdown game against the Cardinals. Even though they did win, it ended up being a very, very close one. I think they bounced back in a big spot here. And again, Seattle had to hold on for dear life there against the Browns last week. I think they're going to get pushed around here. So, Zain, I think you and I are sharing a brain. It sounds like a 34-24 final here. So that's what I'm going to go with. And that's going to be my bench lock of the week this week is the Ravens laying the 6 against Seattle. And guys, just like that,
solid pick and a solid bench block too. I'm
curious to see where everybody's going to go this week because not a lot of these games are getting a lot of points. So you're almost going to. So I'm very curious to see where everybody's going to go. But I will tell you one thing: with that pick, we are officially halfway through the season in picks. That is pick number 136 here in 2023. So 136 down. 136 to go. Zain, it's a Spiro Ditas, Adam Archuleta, and a Didi Kinkabella special on CBS. It's 5th-round rookie Clayton Tune from Houston with the Arizona Cardinals taking on either Deshaun Watson or P.J. Walker there for the Browns. And the Browns, a 7.5-point favorite.
Yeah, regardless of who the quarterback is for Cleveland this week, they know that they need to get that bad taste out of their mouth after losing a heartbreaker to Seattle, and even though Arizona had one of the best backdoor covers I've ever seen last week, I don't think the backdoor cover comes into play here. I think Cleveland just absolutely decimates Arizona on the ground. I think their rushing tandem is going to do really well, and I think whoever starts for Cleveland is going to have a flawless performance with 2 touchdowns. Let's assume here that P.J. Walker gets the start over Watson. I love the Browns in this spot, and I actually love the Browns to win by about 9. So let's go with the final score of a 38 to 26 Cleveland at home over Arizona. And this is a game where you can't sleep on Arizona because they've been playing really competitive football as of late, but it simply is not translated into wins. And I think the same trend continues here. Give me the Browns in a very nice bounce back performance on Sunday at home.
You got Nick.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to reiterate some of what Zain said. I mean, the way I look at this game, the Browns have actually played some decent football the last couple of weeks. Like, they just had some unfortunate situations go against them. But I don't know. When you look at the Cardinals, they've backdoor covered some games, which is kind of surprising. They're actually, like, people were saying that they were just going to lay down and die and not compete. They've actually competed in almost all their games this year. It's the second half that's really killing their games. Like, they play really well in the first half, and then the second half, they forget that they're supposed to play a second half of football. Obviously, no more Josh Dobbs, obviously being traded. So, rookie quarterback in there now. I like the Browns here. I just like the way, and PJ Walker, by the way, is putting up a fierce competition against Deshaun Watson, even though we all know Deshaun Watson, when he's healthy, will be back behind center, $300 million guarantee. I don't want to hear it. This is the same argument we made a couple of weeks ago with Daniel Jones, who was out with the injury, and he had Tyrod in playing better football. He's coming back. It's good to know you have a good backup quarterback. He's going to win this week. Take the money.
Just a couple things real quick. So we're doing this without knowing exactly who's starting now. Deshaun did throw it pretty well in practice on Thursday, and he did admit also that he came back too soon from the shoulder issue the first time. He did admit that he may have jumped the gun on it. But so we don't know exactly if it's going to be Deshaun or it's going to be PJ Walker. But the thing with this game, guys, is not much really to say. I mean, Clayton Tune going against the best defense in the NFL on the road is not the way you want to be starting your debut in this spot. I mean, this might even be a lower scoring game just because of how good the Browns defense is, but they're still going to win by at least 10. So I'm going to take the money with Cleveland laying the 7.5 there at home, Ben.
Yeah, if Josh Dobbs is somehow still on the Cardinals, I maybe consider a cover here. I mean, take the points type of situation with the Cardinals here, because I feel like he's kind of giving them pretty good football, but I just don't know what to expect from, like I mentioned with the Vikings. I don't know what to expect from this other kid, a young kid, in an environment where I think Cleveland's a pretty tough environment, specifically for some teams as of late because they're a defense. And the Cardinals' offensive line, I don't have a lot of trust with against this offensive line for the Cardinals. So yeah, give me the Browns to cover the 7.5 and my lock of the week. I think that this is a game specifically where the Browns will have the running attack like Zain mentioned, and I think that the Cardinals haven't been playing competitive football as of late the last couple of weeks here. So I think it's going to be like a 27-14 type of feel. I think it's going to be a double score type of thing because their defense will make up some key plays.
I like it. Also, one thing to watch, too, going forward, we could be seeing Kyler Murray coming back soon for Arizona. They said possibly as soon as next week, which is why Clayton Tune is starting here on Sunday. But Murray, remember, did get that 21-day window, and he has been practicing. So he seems to be close there for the Cardinals. Now, if he was playing in this game, maybe a little bit of a different story, but I don't see it. But that's something to watch there with Arizona going forward, too.
Maybe he was doing his homework while he was away.
He's had a full year to do it, right? Almost a full year since he tore his ACL against the Patriots.
Did anyone get that reference?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I'm a little biased because I've been with the network long enough to know that that's been a thing for a year now. But yes, so we do have that. It's an Adam Amin, Daryl Moose Johnston, and Pam Oliver special on Fox. Nick, it's the Los Angeles Rams taking on Jordan Love and the Green Bay Packers, and the Packers a 3-point home favorite at Lambeau Field.
I don't like this game at all. I'm just going to come out up front right away. Do not like this game. We don't know who's starting for the Rams with the Matt Stafford thumb injury, I think is what was reported for him. Jordan Love has looked terrible over the last 4 to 5 weeks. He looks lost out there completely. Can't win any games, can't win at home, can't win on the road. Just putting up terrible performances, throwing a lot of picks. I don't know. This is strictly going to be a pick based on the home team because I don't trust either side. So I'm going to take a Packers cover just in the sense of they're the home team. I guess I got a favorite Lambeau, but with the Matt Stafford situation with the thumb, I'm going to stick with Green Bay.
Yeah, Nick, that's exactly why I'm taking Green Bay laying the 3 here because Matt Stafford did not practice Wednesday or Thursday with that UCL sprain in his right thumb. And usually when you don't practice like that, it means usually you're not playing Sunday. And that could mean we'd be seeing Brett Ripien there for the Rams, who has a career touchdown to interception ratio of 4-8. This is probably the matchup that Green Bay's defense needs to get going. Remember, the Rams gave up 43 last week, and the Packers have not scored 20 since week 2. So this might be the best thing for them going, and then also at home too. And they at least showed a little bit of life after the injury to Kirk Cousins last week, but they put themselves in such an early hole. That's the problem. They put themselves in holes before they really start playing their better football. But if Stafford doesn't go, I like Green Bay Of course, we're doing this pick now, not knowing exactly where it's going to be, but I'm just going to take the money here with the Packers laying the field goal at Lambeau, Ben.
So I was thinking to take the upset special here if Matt Stafford was healthy, but he doesn't seem like he is. So, and I haven't been really a big fan of the Packers this year, especially with, like Nick mentioned, I don't see the hype right now with Jordan Love. He's had a lot of his guys healthy relatively with Aaron Jones, Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs. I just don't think right now he's just playing well at all. And that Rams defense still, I know that they had a hard time last week against the Cowboys, but I think the Packers will do enough this week because the Stafford injury is a massive factor. So give me the Packers to cover the 3 here. I think that the Rams are going to struggle with their backup cornerback.
And Zan?
Yeah, I mean, this game is as ugly as you can get. This might be one of the worst games on the entire NFL schedule period when looking at all 200-plus games. But, I mean, this is just one of those games where it's a must-win for both teams. It's more so a must-win for Green Bay to really showcase what their identity is because, as Ben alluded to, Jordan Love and his offense has looked lost over the last 4 to 5 weeks. But to me, this is a game that the Rams cannot step up here, and even without Matt Stafford, I actually think the Rams do enough to win a really ugly game. I think Jordan Love gets sacked twice. I think he throws a really horrible interception that turns the game in Los Angeles' favor. And if Matt Stafford somehow is playing on Sunday, which it doesn't look like he will, but if he somehow does, I think they're going to be in good hands, no pun intended. But I actually do think that the Rams do win and the Packers' free fall continues. I just don't trust that offense, and I think the Rams realize what's at stake if they want to save their season, which is something they couldn't do a year ago. So give me the Rams as 3 and give me the Rams to beat the Packers in a really ugly, low-scoring game. Let's go 16-10 on that.
Okay. I mean, and I'll give you one play off that also, that your number actually is under the over-under that they have on most of the sites. The over-under currently is 38.5. I would take wholly under on that 38.5.
Me too.
Yeah. I would take that play also.
I was considering doing that when we get to our wolf spread plays in just in a little bit. This does feel like a lower scoring game, and even if Stafford plays, I just don't know how effective he's going to be. But that line is so tricky because it'd be easier if it was 2.5 or 3.5. I could have different thoughts about it. But right at 3, it's a very sneaky play there between these two teams. It's Iron Eagle, Charles Davis, and Evan Washburn on CBS, guys, as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers take on C.J. Stroud and the Houston Texans. And the Texans are 2.5-point favorites. And, guys, the league's adjusting to C.J. Stroud, and now it's time for Stroud to adjust back. But that's not going to be an easy task here against this Buccaneers defense, who had extra time to prepare after suffering their 3rd straight loss last Thursday. They've got havoc creators on all 3 levels of defense. And you look at Tampa Bay defensively, at least, they've allowed just 18 points per game. They've held high-powered offenses like the Bills, Lions, and Eagles under their team totals. And this Texans offense does not have any of those kind of attacks. I'm going with an upset special here. I'm going with Tampa plus 2.5 down there in Texas, Ben.
I agree with you. I think that the Texans have kind of started to fall off a little bit, and I think deservedly so. They're a young team. They're going to go through their ebbs and flows, but I think C.J. Stroud's starting to, as much as I love C.J., they're starting to kind of figure things out specifically. You saw the Panthers get their first win against them last week. I think there's a favorable matchup for Baker Mayfield here after he literally was within inches of potentially, coming up with a massive I think it was going to be a win against the Bills on a Hail Mary last week. But as inconsistent as Baker Mayfield's been, I think it's a good week for him, a good matchup for him. I'm going to have the Buccaneers to take the plus 2.5 in Houston on Sunday.
What do you got, Zan?
Yeah, this is one of those games, too, where, I think it's 2 really interesting quarterbacks kind of going in opposite directions. C.J. Stroud is having a really nice rookie campaign so far, and Baker Mayfield is still a little shaky. But this is one of those games where I just think one defense is going to outduel the other, and I think the Bucks do just enough to go on the road, get a huge win, snap a 3-game losing streak, and get their confidence back before the NFC South gets really, really competitive heading into obviously the month of November and heading towards December. So give me the Bucks in a huge crossover matchup, if you will, to get off the shine and get a win. I think this is one of the most entertaining games of the day, and I think the Bucks do just enough. So give me a final score of 24-21 in Houston for Tampa to win and cover.
Yeah, I'm on the same boat with everybody. I have the Buccaneers plus 2.5 also. I think Stroud's kind of hit the wall after having some good games to start the year, and I think he had that streak, right, of games or passes without an interception also. Yeah. And once that broke, the confidence kind of fell off a little because now he's afraid to throw the football. He's throwing a lot more picks now since he broke that streak. Now, I don't know what's going on with the Texans because they were competing a lot early on. Now they're kind of blowing games in the second half. I'm not the biggest Baker fan, but he is holding his own in Tampa and playing decent enough football. I'm not going to say good football, but decent enough football to keep the team in the game. Like Ben said, against Buffalo last week. They were a Hail Mary away from winning that game against Buffalo. Can you imagine the amount of anger we would have come in here if Tampa ended up winning that game on a Hail Mary? That would have been insane. But I do like the Bucks here. Another note, because we don't have time to talk about the trade deadline. Mike Evans was supposedly one of those rumored players that was out on the trade deadline, and their GM basically came out and said, no mas, not trading. So I'm curious if he has any anger or frustration towards that. But yeah, I'm on the same train. Buccaneers plus 2.5.
Well, I think you're showing they still have a chance with how the division. Nobody really taking off in that division, and they seem to be there. I mean, their defense is keeping them in games. Let me just go back to Stroud for 1 second. It's not the interceptions really; it's just his passing yards are down and his completion percentage is lower since week 5. I mean, he was in weeks 1 through 4. He was throwing for 362% completion. Since week 5, it's down below 200 passing yards and 57% completion. He's only got one interception.
The other thing I was going to say is you can't just trust your throwing arm to win games. That's another thing he's got to learn.
Well, this is an interesting test here against this Bucks defense. This probably be a spot. I don't know what the over-under is, but I almost would take the under in this one too because it seems like it's a lower scoring game.
40.
It's something around 40, right?
It's 40 on the dot right now. I'd probably take the under on that.
It's close. That's why I didn't put that on Wall Spreads because it's too close of a number. It could be a low 20s game. It could be a high teens. It's very close. But I think Zan's right. This is one of the more underrated games of the week between these two. Ben, it's a Kenny Albert, Jonathan Vilma, Shannon Spake special on Fox as the Washington Commanders now down 2 starting edge rushers post-trade deadline. They head to Foxborough to take on your New England Patriots. And this is a rare time I get a chance to say it this year. The Patriots are actually a 3-point favorite here in Foxborough.
Yeah, obviously it's for many people it's not really the best appealing game of the weekend compared to a lot of others. But with myself being there right on Sunday, I feel good about this game. I feel good about this game personally. Sam Howell has gotten sacked a lot this year. I think he's the highest sacked quarterback. So I think that if you're the Patriots and Bill Belichick, they're going to do a scheme where they can blitz him a lot, get him off his feet. The biggest thing about the Patriots last week is they give the big plays. That's what Sam Howell's done great this year for us. That's the only thing I worry about really with him. But the biggest thing about the Commanders is like you mentioned, Johnny, they lost Chase Young and Montez Sweat. That takes a lot of their pressure. And I think if the offensive line is intact for the Patriots, I think that Mac Jones, who, by the way, had 2 touchdowns and 1 interception, and obviously the interception was very key, a very bad play. I think that they'll run the football and have a good enough scheme to pull out a 20-17 victory. The Patriots will. The Commanders will take the points, but I think the Patriots will win. And with myself being there, I don't see them losing this one.
So real quick, though, Ben, I just want to make sure, though, for this. Do you want to make it 20-18 or 21-6 or 20-16? Because if you want the Patriots to win and cover, they've got to win by more than 3.
You know what? Give me 24-16.
There you go. So that is a take the money there for New England. I just want to make sure that you get a win in this as well as they're up there in Foxborough on Sunday. Zan, what do you have?
Yeah, this is one of those games too where I just think Bill Belichick knows he can't lose this game. Like even though New England is just a horrible team this year, and obviously Ben knows this. He's been very open about this. I mean, the Commanders have just struggled mightily to close games out, and this is another one of those road tests where they just won't perform well. And you know, Sam Howell 1 week will have a really good game and he'll stay in there and be competitive, and then the next week it looks like he forgot that he was the starting quarterback. So I just think this is one of those games where it's gonna be ugly. I think the weather will likely play a factor. I could even see the under coming into play here, but I like the Patriots to just barely win. Give me the Patriots by 6. To win 20-14, and of this being New England's biggest home win of the entire year in a game that they desperately need, because the AFC East, whether you like it or not, is quickly becoming a gauntlet, and unless they get some ungodly amount of help from teams below them, they're not going to have any chance at an AFC wildcard playing like this. So this is a must-win game for New England. So give me New England to win and have them cover too.
What do you have here, Nick?
This is the first time I think I've said this all year. I have the Patriots covering in a game. I can't believe I'm saying it. I think it took me 9 weeks to finally take a Patriots cover. I mean, the Commanders just traded away Montez Sweat and Chase Young. They're 2 cornerstones of their defense. So they've basically thrown a yellow flag on their season. So basically, it's over. Sam Howell is the most sacked quarterback statistically in the NFL. He does not stay on his feet, and now with his 2 his offensive line being horrible, it's going to be worse. So this is a very easy cover. Take the money.
Wonder how Jonathan Allen feels now after they traded away their 2 best edge rushers. He was mad after that was against the Giant game that he came out after he was living. Now they traded their 2 best defensive players away. I mean, they're only 31st in the league in points allowed, and even though the Patriots lost their top receiver to a season-ending injury, and that their offense has only scored more than 20 points once this year, I think by accident they've got to score more than that to win. And maybe this is the Commander-Giant game from a couple of weeks ago, 14-7, 17-7, something like that. But yeah, this is only the 3rd time this year that the Patriots have been favored in a game this year. But it's rare for me to say this. I'm taking the money with New England. Give me the Pats minus the 3 here, because I just don't know what that defense, with the defense of the Commanders now without those 2 guys, what they're going to be able to do. And I don't think it's going to be a shootout. But yeah, I'm taking the Patriots at home here. Give me the money.
They've been a team all year, I feel, that just has not been balanced. Like 1 week they look really good on offense, but their defense kind of sputters, especially like last week. Right, the Commanders had a pretty good sized lead last week against Philly, but their defense fell apart.
Yeah,
a couple weeks ago, I think it was the other side where their offense wasn't great, but their defense really stepped up. So I think for the Patriots specifically, pretty much have seen all year, they've struggled against really bad teams. They've struggled against really elite type talent. But I feel like the Patriots, their season's probably done, with all being said. But I feel like they got through a lot of their really big gauntlet like teams, Dolphins, the Bills. Dolphins actually twice. The Bills, obviously, a couple other teams early on in the season too. The Eagles too, right? So, I mean, finally, I think that the Patriots have a little bit of I want to say like an easier stretch here, but I think they have a little bit more favorable where, they've been at least scoring within the mid-20s as the last couple weeks here. So I feel good about this one to definitely pull it out just a little bit. So
absolutely. Good luck up there in Foxborough and have a great time. Zan,
thank you.
It's an Andrew Catalan, Tiki Barber, Matt Ryan, and AJ Ross special on CBS as Tyson Bagent and your Bears take on the New Orleans Saints at the Superdome, and the Saints are an 8.5-point home favorite.
Yeah, this is just another ugly game. I mean, you look at the way the Bears performed last week. I thought they were going to perform a little bit better on national TV, but their national TV woes just continue to get to them, and honestly, I feel bad for Tyson. He's a young kid. There's a ton of pressure on him here. Like every single day on Chicago sports radio, like people are just mixed on whether or not they want to continue to see Fields or if they really think that Bagent's the answer. And I'm not sold on him either. And I just think the Saints team is, they're hungry. They know that they have a really big stretch of their season coming up in a very competitive NFC South, as you've all alluded to with New Orleans, Atlanta, and Tampa Bay kind of fighting for that first place positioning. And this is a week where the Saints know that they can't slip up. So I love the Saints here in this spot. -8.5. I think the Bears keep it close for maybe a quarter and a half, but I think the third quarter and the fourth quarter is going to be rinse and repeat of the Chargers game. He could go. So give me the Saints and have Derek Carr throw 2 touchdowns and have this be a big statement game. That maybe the Saints aren't as bad as people think, and I think this is a good get right game for New Orleans, especially with a very big gauntlet of the season coming up in November and December. And of course, the Bears aren't going anywhere. They're going to be fighting for a top draft pick anyway, with the Panthers looming in a short week on Thursday. So I just think this smells bad news. So give me the Saints.
All right, Nick, what do you have?
I mean, there's not really much to say about this game. I don't like Bagent. I mean, like, I know he's a Division II standout. Essentially, he won didn't he win like the Division II Heisman Trophy or whatever that was called? Yeah, this is gonna be. I think this is gonna be a blowout. That's the nicest thing I can say. I know they got Montez Sweat. That doesn't really help them. Really, it's gonna be a blowout. Just take them.
Yeah, the problem that Bagent's got this week is he hasn't played a defense like this in his young career, like the Saints do. I don't know about blowout because I don't know if the Saints have the ability to blow anybody out, but I think a 10-point win is definitely in the works here down there at the Superdome. I will take the money with the Saints over the Bears.
Yeah, I agree with you, Johnny. I think this game won't be a blowout like you mentioned, Nick, but I think it will have a blowout type feel to it. It'll be a lot closer than I think than anticipated because Derek Carr, I feel, is just very inconsistent each week. So you just never know specifically what type of Derek Carr you get. But you're facing Tyson Bagent. And to be fair for him, I feel like there's a little bit of upside with him. But, Justin Fields is definitely their better overall type quarterback when he is out there and he is healthy. But it doesn't really matter specifically who's out there at quarterback for the Bears because they just don't have the consistency of talent around them. Give me the Saints to cover the 8.5 here, especially playing the Superdome. Really tough place to play.
I will say though, if Justin Fields was starting this week, my pick would be different, and I would take the Bears to cover in a loss just because I think that Justin Fields versus Derek Carr would be much more of a competitive game than the matchup we have this week. So just as a little FYI.
It's possible, yeah. I don't know if it'd also be an 8.5-point spread though. It might be more like 6.5, which would be another interesting thing to find out. All right, Nick, let's go to the Frank Reich revenge game here. It's Kevin Harlan, Trent Green, and Melanie Collins on CBS. It's the Indianapolis Colts and the Carolina Panthers up at Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte. And the Colts, a 2.5-point road favorite, so a rare road favorite here in Week 9.
Yeah, this is a bad game all the way around. I know people are going to say, like, it could be a somewhat interesting game. What is it? It's going to be Gardner Minshew and Bryce Young. I mean, I don't know. I mean, you could say there's a potential for an upset special with the Panthers, but the Panthers are eyeing for our first overall pick, like the Bears are. So I'm going to take the small favorite on the road. There's really not much to say about this game, so I'll just take the Colts to cover.
Oh, Nick, this is not a potential upset special. This is an upset special. I know Zan's not going to like to hear this. I'm taking the Panthers plus 2.5 here. First off, the Frank Reich revenge game here. So for Carolina, and maybe they have a little bit more confidence now after their first win of the year. They had to get off the schneid somehow, and this is a good matchup for them to do it. Now, their offense is limited because of their personnel, but, the Colts defense has been atrocious the last 3 weeks. You realize they're giving up 38 points per game in the last 3 weeks. I think the winning ways continue here for Bryce Young and company, and I know Zan doesn't want to hear that since he's got Carolina's first-round pick this year, but I'm going to take the Panthers to get their second straight win here at Bank of America, Ben.
Yeah, the Colts obviously haven't been playing as great football ever since Anthony Richardson went down. But the Colts, I feel like, after giving up 30-plus points, I think they were playing a lot of type teams where they score a lot high in terms of command for points. I don't trust the Panthers with Bryce Young and that offense to be able to put up the decent amount of points in a game like this against this Colts defense, despite them giving up a lot of points. So with that being said, I think that the Colts will ground and pound a lot in this game against the Panthers. Jonathan Taylor, I think, will score. Give me the Colts to cover here at 2.5.
What about you there, Dan?
The Colts are going to play well for 59 minutes, but Shock is going to win the final minute, and I think Gardner Minshew is going to make the biggest mistake of the season so far for Indianapolis and throw a game-losing pick six. Okay.
Oh!
Give me the Panthers to win and cover and win their second consecutive game and second win of the year. Putting a lot more pressure on the number one pick. So
there you go. I like that. Man. There you go. So we'll see there. But I mean, if the Colts give up 39 to the Browns, who said they can't give up a decent amount to the Panthers there in Charlotte? Sure. But we'll find out. It's Kevin Kugler, Mark Sanchez, and Laura Oakman on the NFL on Fox. It is the New York Giants taking on the Las Vegas Raiders now with no more Josh McDaniels, no Jimmy Garoppolo there in Vegas, with Antonio Pierce now as the interim coach and them going to Aiden O'Connell. The Raiders are a 1.5 favorite. Do I have to make a pick in this game, right?
Yes.
So let's see. It looks like Daniel Jones could be back there for the Giants on Sunday. There's no Tyrod Taylor. He's been ruled out. There's no Darren Waller. He's dealing with multiple hamstring injury. Graham Gano got put on IR. I think the only reason why to take the Raiders in this game, which I'm going to take the Raiders laying the 1.5, is maybe the Antonio Pierce interim coach boost, I think, is what's going to get it done here. And you know what? Again, this Giants offensive line dealing with one of the better defensive players in the league this year in Max Crosby. You worry about Daniel Jones' health here again. This is a play where I would take the under in this game, and I'm also going to take the Raiders to win by a field goal there at Allegiant Stadium, Ben.
Yeah, this is a game that's, you got possibly Aiden O'Connell because they reportedly benched Jimmy this week.
Yeah, it is
the Giants specifically, I don't know specifically if Daniel Jones will be back, and if he is back, how 100% is he going to be? So with that being said, I think that the Raiders are going to win this game, but I think the Giants are going to cover. I think it's going to be a 17-16 type of a game. Both offenses have had a hard time scoring the football as of late, so somebody's going to have to win, and I think the Raiders will edge it out of a game-winning field goal at the end of the game.
Another one, Ben? Come on, another game-winning field goal against the Giants. Seriously?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Daniel Carlson will edge it out in a game where I'll have a similar feel like last week.
But can we at least make sure that the officiating is at least 100% this time?
All right, both sides dealt with the officiating issues.
I'm saying that I want to complete a fair officiating game on both sides. That is fair. But no more heartbreak for me. You know what? At that point, let the Raiders just win 30-3. It'll be less painful. Dan, go ahead.
This game screams ugly. This is going to be a shock to most of you, but I actually think this game goes to overtime. The Raiders barely win, and we're going to get one of the weirdest scores of the entire season. Give me the Raiders to win this game 14-11. There's going to be a weird safety that's going to help somebody out. So,
interesting.
Wow.
Yeah.
So wait, so you have it like 11-11 going overtime, and then the safety and OT. Right?
Oh my God.
Oh
yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
All right, Nick. What are we going with here? I mean, I kind of have a feeling where you're going with, but just lay it on me.
Yeah, this is gonna be a very ugly game. I mean, the Raiders have everything going against them. They basically 2003 Marlins, their whole organization. They got rid of the head coach. They got rid of the GM. They got rid of the offensive coordinator. They basically cleaned house. So, again, they're going to lose a lot of games, but that's the point. They're basically clearing house to see where they're going to go. Garoppolo benched, Aiden O'Connell to get the start, which I think is the right move because you're benching because you got rid of the coach. You got to get rid of the guy who was starting. The Giants just did not look good last week. I mean, the offense was okay. I mean, when they were using Saquon, I should say, the offense was okay. Everything else, not okay. and that's going to be a problem. So I'm going to match the cliche. I think they're going to win by a field goal. So I'm going to take them to cover.
What heartbreak do you have? What heartbreak do you have for me for this game? How are the Giants? How are the Raiders doing it this time? Or how are the Giants doing it this time?
I think Dable's going to make another dumb mistake.
All right. Well, we'll find out about that and what happens there at Allegiant Stadium. Oh, well, from that, we go to this one. A Kevin Burkhardt, Greg Olsen, Aaron Andrews, and Tom Rinaldi special on Fox. Ben, it's the Dallas Cowboys and Dak Prescott taking on Jalen Hurts and the Philadelphia Eagles. And in Philadelphia, the Eagles are laying a field goal.
I'm really excited about this game. You have a battle between two NFC East teams that score a ton of points. Dallas obviously coming off of a high-scoring win last week against the Rams. The Eagles are coming off a high-scoring win against the Commanders, so something has to give here. It's in Philly. I think Jalen Hurts had a phenomenal week last week, 4 touchdowns, including 2 to A.J. Brown. I think that the Cowboys are been vulnerable to giving up big plays, especially against receivers. Give me the Eagles to cover this one. It's at their place. I really like this matchup for Philly, and they have another one. So I'm going to have the Eagles to lay the -3.
Zan?
I will of this game. This is your typical NFC East bloodbath that I think everybody's excited about year in and year out. And this is one of those ones where you throw out the records and you just look at the prestige and the history. And for those of you guys who know, usually whoever wins this game in Philadelphia usually ends up having the upper edge in the NFC East by season's end. So this could be a really big divisional swing game when it's all said and done. I just think Jalen Hurts outduels Dak Prescott. This is going to be one of those games where the Cowboys are going to have a lead in the third quarter and they're going to lose in heartbreaking fashion. So give me the Eagles to win the game and cover the spread. Final score 21-17. They just barely cover.
Oh, nice. You have a lower scoring game.
Mm-hmm.
That one. I like that. All right, Nick, what do you have here?
See, I like this game. I love these competitive games against the Eagles and the Cowboys every year. Obviously, it determines the division. The Eagles are the best team in the NFL right now, hands down. I think they're playing better than the Niners right now. They're playing better than the Chiefs, obviously, right now. They're the best team in the NFL. Jalen Hurts is definitely the top quarterback, in my opinion, right now in the NFL, even over Mahomes. So I actually like the Eagles, and I think they're actually going to come out and win by at least a touchdown. I think they're going to come out and show at home, much better team at home. The Cowboys, we all know what happens to the Cowboys in big situations. They fall off, they stumble, and they lose big games. So give me the Eagles to win, and this is my lock.
Oh, okay. I was going to say I haven't seen a lot of locks here so far this week, and I was saying that's been the theme of this week with how crazy these games are. Oh, okay. So this line right at 3 again. This is what makes it a little bit tricky because if we're talking about 2.5 versus 3.5, it could be a different story here, but. Dak Prescott away from Arlington is a different quarterback than he is there at AT&T Stadium. And his road stats are not pretty. If he's forced to pass, I think this Philly pass rush is going to be unleashed. And Dak sees, I think he declines in outdoor venues. We saw that. I mean, just look at the game against the 49ers. You know, when he plays, the last time the boys played an NFC favorite on the road, they got embarrassed. And I don't think it's going to be that bad, but I don't think it's going to be that good either. So, I'm going to do not a Kirk Cousins checklist because unfortunately we can't use that, but I'm going to do a different kind of list here for this game. I'm going to take the team with the better coach, the better quarterback, the better GM, the better run organization. Oh, and the home team in this start of a challenging stretch for the defending NFC champions. I'm taking the Eagles minus the 3. I know Jerry Jones is not going to want to hear that, but he's not here today, so that's just too bad. But you know, Jerry,
shucks.
I know, but Jerry, stop opening your mouth and just do it on the field. You know, here's the thing: the Eagles actually make moves to improve their roster. The Cowboys try and talk their way into improving their roster. I mean, that's a difference right there. You know, Dallas did not make any moves at the deadline, and that's why I said in one of my Monty Mullins early in the week, I thought they were a big loser at this deadline because they did not try to improve that roster.
I still think it was a mistake not trying to somehow get Derrick Henry from the Titans.
I agree. It sounds like he was not available, but not to get any sort of running back to try and, compliment Tony Pollard there for Dallas.
The reason he wasn't available is because the Titans are idiots because they're not in it.
Well, yeah, they won big though last week, and Will Levis did look pretty good. I don't know what the plan down there is in Tennessee, but they must know what they're doing. But this is if you look at the Eagles' schedule here, these next 6 or so games, this starts a grueling test there for the defending NFC champions. So this is going to be a very good test for them, and we'll find out what happens here. But this is definitely one of the games of the week. Another great game of the week here is on Sunday Night Football on NBC. Zan, it's Mike Tirico, Chris Collinsworth, and Melissa Stark as Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. It looks like it's going to be Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills takes on Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals, and the Bengals a 2-point favorite.
Yeah, this is going to be this is a hot game, probably one of the hottest NFL tickets that you can get, and this is a game where there's kind of a lot of there's a lot of ease just considering what happened last year when these two teams played, and there's a lot of uncertainty. They're kind of back in a similar position, except it's earlier in the year this time. But I think number one, this game will finish his schedule number one, and I think Josh Allen is just enough to outduel Joe Burrow, and I think Allen and the Bills go into Cincinnati, get a huge win 31-24, and kind of show everybody that the Bills are still there. I think everyone was kind of riding the Bills off just a little bit a few weeks ago when they didn't play very well against New England, but I think all of those concerns can be put to rest. I just think overall the Bills are a better football team, and to me, I think this line is very disrespectful. So give me the Bills to cover.
Well, a little upset special. Nick?
I mean, I'm not too far off from that. I mean, I know Josh Allen has the shoulder injury that was on the report, and Josh Allen is known for his history of shoulder injuries. And we know that the Bills have had a ton of injuries. But have we seen the way? I know the Bengals have recovered over the last couple of weeks, but look at how they played the first couple of weeks of the season. They look horrible, and they couldn't beat a division opponent. Now, this is a big game. I still think that the Bills will find a way to win this game because I think they're angry. They need to come back and assert themselves. Like, I know they're winning games, but they need to put a stamp on a game, and I think they're going to do it against the Bills. So I'm going to take the Bills +2.
How do you love the Bills defense that's down 3 starters though right now? And Rasul Douglas, who they did bring in though, is not. I don't think he's going to play. It doesn't look like, but they also didn't beef up their offense at the deadline. Joe Burrow is getting completely healthy. T. Higgins is back. The defense is starting to mesh. Everything just seems to be going right there for Cincinnati when it wasn't going right there in the beginning. And I'm laying less than a field goal in this game. I think, one thing about Joe B is he gets riled up for big-time games, whether it's the Chiefs or the Bills. And he'll do this at home on Sunday night for sure. Give me the Bengals laying the 2 points there in Cincinnati on Sunday night, Ben.
I'm excited for this game. It's at 2 heavyweights. Obviously, one team is playing with the Bills specifically. They've had a lot of question marks, especially with their defense, like mentioned, Johnny. The Bengals obviously just haven't been playing consistently great football. They did obviously come off the massive win last week against the 49ers, but it's about playing consistently. The Bills' defensive front obviously can definitely still cause problems in that Bengals offensive line that's very inconsistent. But I think the biggest key is the Bengals, like last week, ran the football, and they're going to do that again this week, which will help Joe Burrow a lot in that offense. So I'm going to have the Bengals to lay the -2 here and to cover and to win this game in a really, really tight game.
There we go. Yeah, definitely one of the games of the week there on Sunday night. And it's nice that we will get this matchup, which, unfortunately what happened last year when these two met. But we'll see what happens here on Sunday night. Nick, it's Joe Buck, Troy Aikman, and Lisa Salters on Monday Night Football on ESPN as Justin Herbert and the Los Angeles Chargers go to MetLife Stadium to take on Zach Wilson and your New York Jets. And your Jets are getting 3.5 points on Monday night.
So there's a bunch of factors to this game. Okay, so coming off the victory against the Giants, everyone's going to say the momentum is on the Jets side because they managed to come back. Obviously, the only reason they won the game is because Brian Dable made a dumb decision to kick a field goal with 28 seconds left, and that gave them the time to drive down the field.
That's not the only reason.
No, but I'm saying if they go for it on 4th and 1, even if they don't make it, time expires and the Giants win that game.
But also, there's a few factors which we won't get into, but go ahead.
So that's more the point that I'm getting at. Like, they shouldn't have won this game. The Giants were on track to win that game. So the Jets are not proving anything to me here. I know that they've had some decent victories over the last couple of weeks, but which Charger offense are you going to get? You don't know which one you're going to get. Are you going to get the one where Herbert throws for 330 yards and 3 touchdowns? Is Austin Eckler going to come out and run for 100 yards? Or are you going to get Austin Eckler who disappears in the shadow and you're not going to see anything? So I just feel like the Chargers are a better team than the Jets. And I can't believe I'm saying that, considering I hate their coach. And so I'm actually going, well, you thought I was going to take the Jets. I'm not taking the Jets. Take the Chargers to cover.
No, I'm not shocked at all you're not taking the Jets. First off, I cannot believe that you don't give the Jets any credit through 8 weeks. It is amazing. I mean, if I didn't know you, I wouldn't think you're a Jets fan. You didn't give. I mean, first of all, if you look at the game last week for a second, not only was it Dable, which you can question both of them if you want, but I mean, you have to be fair. And Zach Wilson helped lead them down the field. And the Giants defense, in one drive they needed to make a stop, didn't make a stop. But Zach Wilson did play well. But you also, I mean, you got to give credit to the Jets defense this season too. To be fair,
I mean, there were dumb penalties on each side too, obviously. But and if I remember correctly, I did give credit to Zach Wilson on that last stretch when we did the live stream. I gave credit to Zach Wilson down the stretch. But I still need to see more. I need to see more consistency and more play, putting wins by wins by wins.
But they've won 3 in a row, though. I
understand, but with all the track record behind him, he's got to make this team go. And I think the Chargers are too offensive juggernaut for the Jet defense.
Okay. I mean, to be fair, though, I mean, the one thing you've noticed from Zach Wilson is he lighting up the numbers with but he's not making mistakes. You know, his numbers have been better the last 3 weeks. Now, granted, you know, he's doing this knowing that he's not going to be the starter once Aaron Rodgers comes back, whether that is supposedly this year or next year. But I think you got to give the Jets defense a lot of credit this season. As you look at them,
I agree.
Right? I mean, first off, they've held Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, and Josh Allen, who finished 1, 2, 3 in the MVP voting last year, in check for the most part this season. And who's to say they don't do this against Justin Herbert on Sunday night? And I'm getting 3.5 points. I'm getting that extra half a point at home. This team's playing with confidence. First off, this pick has absolutely nothing to do with the coaching because I think both coaches stink. So
agreed.
So it has nothing to do with that. This pick to me has everything to do with the best unit of the 4 that are going to be on this field on Sunday, and that's the Jets defense. I mean, he does. I don't think Zach needs to be dynamite in this game, but we saw Herbert put up a dominant performance last Sunday. But that was, you know, considered the opponent. But you know, you got it. You only can play your schedule here. I think this game's going to be very, very close, and that's how the Jets have also been playing these games too. I'm taking the Jets getting 3.5 at MetLife Stadium. Maybe not even winning this game, but I'll tell you right now, I wouldn't be afraid to put them on the money line because of the confidence because of how the confidence and B their track record this season against good quarterbacks. So I'd be more inclined to take the under, but as far as this game, I'm taking the Jets getting 3.5 on Monday night.
Yeah, this is a game that I think that the Jets could be able to hang around because of 2 things: their defense and the coaching that's on the Chargers side, especially late in games. I don't still trust that coaching at all for Brandon Staley. I think the only reason why the Chargers win is because Austin Eckler's back. They have their offense specifically pretty much at full health outside of the Mike Williams injury, which has pretty much caused them a lot of this year. And Zach Wilson has obviously been very inconsistent with his overall play. So I think it's going to be like a 20-17 type of game. I think it's going to be a lot of a lower scoring type game. Over-under probably be around 40, I would say, in this one. But yeah, give me the Chargers to win, but the Jets take that 3.5. I really like the Jets in the spot because of their defense specifically.
All right, Zan, what do you have here?
All right, this is why I was waiting until the last game. This is my lock of the week for the simple reason that Justin Herbert is a better quarterback than Zach Wilson. The Chargers should have no issues winning this game after a dominant win against the Bears. I mean, the Chargers to win by at least 2 touchdowns, 31-17, and Zach Wilson lays an egg on national TV, which is what should have happened in the first game of the year against the Bills. Nick knows this too. The Jets got super lucky when they beat the Bills. They shouldn't have won that game. And also, as he alluded to a week ago, the Jets had no business beating the Giants last week, and the Chargers are a better football team. So give me the Chargers to cover, win, and make it my lock of the week, because this is the last game we have left. So,
wow. Okay, that's more surprising than any of the upset specials that we had this week.
One thing I will say, I don't know if I would have taken by 2 touchdowns. That's a lot, but they're definitely going to win. I just don't see them as that's a lot. 2 touchdowns is a lot.
Wow. Okay. I don't know. Maybe I'm seeing something different then. All right. Well, we'll find out though. I mean, it's a critical game for both teams though. That's the thing. I mean, you look at the standings here. I mean, the Jets definitely are still playing themselves into a playoff spot. I mean, they need some things to go right. I mean, they've got to get a good stretch here going, but I think they have that potential. Their defense is going to keep them in these games, guys. That's why I think they've got a chance. And as long as Zach Wilson doesn't make any mistakes, they're going to be fine. Now, with that being said, and I forgot to mention this too, the one thing I do have concern with the Jets is they did not bolster that offensive line at the trade deadline. You know, Nick will tell you this too. That was a very costly win on Sunday, losing 2 centers, and Dwayne Brown is still out. Now, they did open up the 21-day window for Brown, but, you know, the offensive line is a concern. And if you go up against a good defensive teams, and I know the Chargers do have some pass rushers, that might be your one area where you do get concerned with. But that's where you have, you know, guys like Breece Hall and the running back position to try and neutralize that. But we'll find out. This should be an entertaining game, though, on Monday night there down at MetLife Stadium. Well, we're going to do things a little bit differently this week. You know, we are obviously presented by our good friends over at Wolf Spreads, and, you know, we're in a little bit of we do a competition here every single week. Nick, exactly so we're giving 2,000 fantasy dollars, right?
Yes.
So why don't you explain that? You can be my little co-host in this regard.
So the way it works, if people want to join in, our link will be in the description below. It'll also be on social media across our different social media accounts. You go in, you have to pick at least 3 games or 3 picks, whether that's a money line, a spread, an over-under, and you have to use 1,500 of the 2,000 points at minimum. Otherwise, you get penalized the amount that you didn't use up to 1,500. So it's the same thing. You're picking spreads or money line or over-unders. It's free money, essentially.
And also just one other thing, too. These picks that we're going to be doing do not count with our win-loss and point totals that we're using in our competition ourselves here on ETB. So, Nick, on that regard, you can go ahead first. What are your plays here for Week 9?
So if I can pull mine up here. Hopefully I didn't pull the wrong thing. There we go. I got it.
Okay.
So I have the Dolphins plus 1.5. That was my upset for this week. With a 500 wager. I have the Ravens -6 because I like that, obviously, against Seattle. I have the Eagles -3. That was my lock this week in our normal picks. And I have the Chargers -3.5. All 500 fake dollar bets to add up to the 2,000 max.
Cool. All right. I went all in. I used all 2,000 of mine, and I went with 7 plays here on Wolf Spreads, and I did a little bit of everything. You know, last week I went 1-1-1 because I took the Eagles -7, which was a push. I took the Jet Giant game being under, which did hit, and I did take the over in the Raider line game, which did not hit. So that's why I went 1-1-1 in that. But here I got 6 plays for 300 and 1 for 200 fantasy dollars. So for Week 9 here on Wolf Spreads, I am taking the Chiefs minus the 1.5 over the Dolphins. I am taking the Ravens on the money line against the Seahawks. I'm also taking the over in that game, that's just 44. I think that's a high-scoring game, like 34-24. So I'm going to take the over in the Seahawk-Raven game. I am taking Carolina plus 2.5 against the Colts. Like I said, I think the Colts defense is a mess, and the Panthers now have some confidence. So even if they don't win, I'm getting 2.5 points there, Bank of America. So we're going to go with that. I took the Eagles on the money line to win against the Cowboys there in that big game. And 2 plays on the Chargers-Jets game just to help Nick a little bit more. Yes, I did take the Jets plus 3.5 on the spread, and I'm taking the under in the Charger-Jet game. The Jets defense is going to keep this game close, and it's going to keep it under. The over-under is 40. I think this is in the 30s because I think that's just how the Jets defense plays, and I don't think their offense is explosive enough to put up a high number of points, but their defense is good enough, I should say great enough, to get to Herbert, harass him, and make some plays and keeps this game relatively close. So those are my 7 picks for Week 9 presented by Wolf Spreads. Ben?
So for me, I have the Raiders at -1.5. I have them for a $200 wager. These are all spread picks for me specifically.
Okay.
I have, let's see, the Texans at 2.5 of the spread. I have them at $100 as my wager. And then my other one to cap it off is I have the Falcons at -4 to take the $200 wager.
There we go.
Okay.
All right, Dan, what about you?
Yeah, I've got a bunch of plays here, obviously presented by Low Spreads. As we always said, I think I have a total of 8 plays, so let me just go through them. I've got Miami plus 2.5. I've got 100 fantasy dollars on that. I've got the Rams to cover in Green Bay. That's 100 fantasy dollars on that too. I've got the Saints to cover -7.5 against the Bears. That's also another $100 wager, and this is where my wagers get a little bigger. I've got the Bucks to cover plus 2.5, and that's a $500 wager. And then I have the Carolina Panthers in the under at 500. I've got the Raiders in the under against the Giants. That's a $100 wager. And finally, as we move to the bottom, I've got the Eagles to cover. That's a $500 wager, and I have the Bills to cover. Finally, rounding it out with a $100 wager. So hopefully, I can go 2-0 this week and keep my positive vibes going on an app that I'm slowly but surely becoming really good at using. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we'll find out what happens. We'll keep everybody updated there, and we'll have everybody's picks from Week 9 on our social media pages on Facebook and Twitter at GameOnETB, on Instagram at GameOn_ETB, of course, ETB Network also, and also our YouTube channel, youtube.com/ETB Network, where if you like our Football Fridays and all of our Monty moments and all of our content, leave us a like. If you're new, hit that subscribe button as we head towards 600 and still growing strong. And of course, hit that notification bell so you know when all of our stuff's going to be coming out. Also, check us out on our website at etbpodcast.com for great blog posts and from all of our ETB talent. And also, you can find out everything about all of our shows here on the Empty the Bench Podcast Network, which is also growing, which is also strong and growing. And of course, if you cannot watch us, you can check us out. You can listen to Football Friday and all of our stuff wherever you get your favorite podcast, whether that's Apple, Acast, wherever you get them, we are there for you. So, guys, it's November. It's going to be a great football weekend with, of course, college, a big college day Saturday, big pro day starting on 9:30 a.m. Eastern on Sunday, and the big Monday night game as well. So you guys all have, I guess I should say this, an extra long special weekend since we get the extra hour of sleep this weekend, which we all could use, right?
Absolutely.
I'm with you on that.
Absolutely. So should be a great weekend of football. You all have a great one. So for Nick Morgasen, Zain Bando, Ben Kruse, everybody here at the Empty the Bench Podcast Network, I'm Johnny Montalbano. Enjoy your weekend, everybody, and we'll catch you all again next week.
See you guys then.